What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So Lucid just came out with their Q3 production and delivery numbers. I wanted to talk on that, go over some data points and what shorts are doing. Before I get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid is currently down 4.83%. It did have a low of around $4.90, so very close to the 52-week and all-time low. As far as volume though, 23.99 million shares being traded, 27 is the average. And so today is a very heavy volume day, but that's beside the point specific to Lucid. A lot of other growth stocks are experiencing the exact same thing. But when it comes down to Lucid unveiling their numbers, let's talk on that for a second. And so in here, they do talk on the numbers. They also declare their actual earnings. So it's going to be held on November the 7th after hours. So you're going to once again be able to ask questions to management. That's going to open up and start on October the 24th. But once again, I think the numbers are just overshadowing everything. So ultimately, they did produce 1,550 vehicles. Even when it comes down to that, I did many videos. Anything below 2,000, this sell-off was going to be coming and justified. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. And when it comes down to the company delivered 1,457 vehicles during that same period, like that, what the hell are they doing there? Like, this quarter, I was actually very optimistic, similar to the last quarter, but still, like, what the hell are these numbers? Because you have to factor in that their excuse last quarter for very lackluster deliveries was the fact that a lot of vehicles were delivered on an international scale, just not to the customer itself. So it didn't really make it within Q2. So there was a large assumption, myself included, that the deliveries were going to far exceed the production. But what the hell is this? This is just completely stupid. And once again, I think this is signaling something maybe bigger, because you also have to factor in during Q3, they did cut prices just to kind of boost demand, similar to Tesla. Tesla's done it several times, in fact, but Lucid for the first time did a broad cut. And they signaled that it wasn't due to demand issues, it's just more supply and various things like that. So it was a large assumption that these numbers were going to be good. Probably the very first good earnings numbers, at least for Lucid. And this tweet right here kind of puts it in perspective. So keep in mind, they did 1,457 vehicles. So they almost delivered as much as, I guess, Q3 or even Q4. Like, this is horrible. Like, I cannot explain. And I know there's probably a lot of individuals saying like, oh, you know what, Lucid is a new company, you have to give them a break. You know what, this is like a year and a half in a high interest rate environment that ultimately they're just going to continue to burn through cash. This is not the time for a trial and error period. Like, this is just shitty numbers. Pardon my French, of course. And then when it comes down to it, I don't know why they included this. Maybe for people to be optimistic about the AMP2 facility, because it's saying that 700 additional vehicles were being sent through to Saudi Arabia for final assembly. So that's obviously for production for the AMP2 facility. But when it comes down to that, the fact that they're shipping it in October, that signals that most likely they haven't done any of that yet. But that's just my own interpretation, not financial advisor. We'll have to wait until their actual earnings to wait and find out. But clearly the whole unveiling, the opening ceremony wasn't occurring on September the 1st as planned. So maybe there is some delays when it comes down to that. So that's not necessarily the best thing. And that's something I actually have praised Lucid out of anything, is based on their Q4 earnings. They did lay out every single thing, what was going to happen in the year. And they were oddly very accurate for once. So this is their transcripts from the Q4 earnings, 2022, of course. So it says starting in Q3, so that's 2023, we may begin activating parts of phase 2 at AMP1, and we should expect some transitional downtime could occur in Q4 with phase 2. We would expect higher efficiencies, and this is something they've already signaled in the past, the fact that their Q4, they really hit home. And you can tell that based on these numbers as well. Their Q4 numbers far exceeded anything. But when it comes down to the transcripts, we kind of already assumed that the production numbers would be a little bit low, but you have to factor in Q3, their production numbers were around 2,100. So maybe 2,000 would be kind of the bare minimum, but at the end of the day, like having 1500 for production is just absolutely horrible. My apologies for sticking on this. I probably should let this go, but this is definitely a eye-opener, and I feel that unfortunately a lot of people and probably institutions are not satisfied by these numbers, and this is why there is a pretty significant drop that did occur today. But moving on from this, when it comes down to options, $788,000 in calls being purchased versus 771 in puts. So based on this information, so it is kind of evenly divided, so potentially it could go either direction. As far as this though, this is showing the open interest for calls, has all the strike prices, expiry dates. Based on this, it is anticipated to close roughly between the $5.50 and $6 range by the end of this week. If you are negative, looking at the puts, it is anticipated to be roughly sub $5. And that's kind of matching with the technicals. So based on this, with it currently at $5.05, it is between this S1 and the pivot. So as it stands, $4.94 is a very strong support. $5.17 is a very strong resistance. It kind of broke past that temporarily today as it kind of bounced higher. But like I signaled leading up to today, if their numbers were going to be bad, especially as well with Tesla, their earnings tomorrow after hours, and a lot of people oddly are kind of skeptical about Tesla's earnings, especially by them cutting the prices so many times, that will definitely cause repercussions across the EV market, and especially to Lucid. So I do feel that potentially we might retest this around $4.94 mark, and depending on Tesla earnings, we might actually drop down a little bit lower. So once again, I don't want to keep saying that next earnings will be better and blah, 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 because this is very discouraging. I think management definitely needs to figure their stuff out, and whether they actually bring in someone new, potentially from another big OEM that has been around the block essentially, that can actually handle Lucid's problems and get it done. Because once again, as far as why they're not hitting their mark, why there's only 1400, could be anyone's guess. Is there a lack of demand, or is there some other circumstance that's happening behind the scenes? 1500, yes, that is very, very low. So maybe they did have additional downtime more than what they forecasted, but still, at the end of the day, I think this goes to show transparency levels, because even if you look back at the Q2 earnings, when retail was able to ask questions, or actually, no, sorry, that was the Q1 2023 earnings, someone asked, like, what is your plan for transparency? And they said that we plan on being more transparent. Well, this isn't transparent whatsoever. But still, once again, as far as technicals, that's what to watch for. And when it comes down to shorts, I'll give you an overview of what they are doing. So right now, short score is 86, utilization is 96.03, and looking as far as what they are doing, so 460,000 shares is being increased. 25.42% of the free float is being shorted. 223.54 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is opening up a little bit lower, so 14.6 is the average. And through the interactive broker short availability, it does indicate that there's around 250,000 shares available to be shorted. And just to put it in perspective on how shorts are really damaging Lucid, currently there's around $1.18 billion worth of shorts. So pretty significant stuff when it comes down to that. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. What is your viewpoint on these numbers? Obviously, I know everyone's going to say that it's low, but why do you feel that the delivery numbers are at 1400? Honestly, I would have assumed that they'd be at least like 2200, because that it just doesn't make sense. Even going back over here, based on Q3, they produced 2100 and they delivered 1400, with the excuse of them saying that, oh, we couldn't just deliver it to customers. It made it on an international level, just not to the customer. So where the hell are these vehicles going? Like, or are they just sitting now in parking lots on an international scale, or where the hell are they? So what's your viewpoint on all that? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And even though Lucid goes up, down, sideways, all over the place, take advantage of this promo that I've been sharing with you only up until October the 20th. So sign up for an account with Moon with $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, I appreciate all of you watching.